Right, guys, we're going to get started. First and foremost, thank you for joining us at See You at Noon. Today we have Michelle Rawn, attorneys, specializing in evictions, which right now, not really a thing going on. And then
Actually,
Dennis
they are.
Well, so yeah, you can still file them, right? It's just they're not.
In Kentucky, we can file them. And they give us our court dates, which right now, the court dates they gave us yesterday were April the 29th. Everything that we had scheduled during the 4-week shutdown, they've already rescheduled. The courts are set to open April 13th. I personally feel they're going to delay it again, but that's just, no one has said anything. That's just my thoughts with the way things are going right now.
Do you think they'll do that with mortgage payments too? With the, they have the 3-month deferred right now. Do you think they'll do that?
I think if we end up the courts being shut down longer, which is how Kentucky would have to stop the evictions, they can't do what Indiana did. Was the governor mandated that no new evictions and no new foreclosure actions can be filed in the state of Indiana. And he did not give a date. It's basically no new filings until he changes his mind right now. So in Indiana, I can't even file the evictions right now. They won't give you court dates. They won't give you anything. They tentatively feel they're going to be reopening April 13th, but they're not willing to give new court dates or anything for your current cases. Everything's just been put on hold. Over here, the Supreme Court of Kentucky would just do what they're doing right now, which is the courts are shut down for everything but non-emergency hearings. So you can still do EPOs, domestic violence orders, guardianships, custodies. The criminal cases are still being arraigned. The trials are moving forward if they're in violation of your right to a speedy trial. But other than that, everything's on hold.
Wait.
They're doing what?
Sorry, I should do the interview, but what about your redemption rights on these auctions? Is that clock still ticking?
Yes.
Nice.
They haven't stopped any of that. Right now, they've only canceled 2 foreclosure sales here in Jefferson County right now. If the courts stay closed past April 10th, then they'll have to cancel more. But right now there's just the 2. But we're going to be paying money in on a foreclosure property tomorrow. And they'll process it, and they're limiting the access of being able to go into the commissioner's office right now. They've limited it to attorneys, and court people, court personnel. So we can still get in. We have to, you always have to call from the front desk to get into the commissioner's office anymore, but they'll come down and get us and then take us up. If it's something we need to go up for, if it's something we just need to drop off, they're coming down, getting it, and we don't get to go up. But for the pay-in orders, they said we can still come up. They'll process it and give us our copies back, and then we go on our way, and they'll handle it like usual. So
what a treat. And I feel like I did you a disservice. Michelle is also the parliamentarian of KREIA, so she makes sure we keep everything above board and legal. She knows her stuff. And then Dennis Erhard. Dennis is just some dumb guy. I'm just kidding, but he says that about himself all the time, and he'll explain that probably in a few seconds. But Dennis is a former KREIA president, and he's currently on the board as well with Michelle and I. First of all, everything we say on this call is our own opinions and not necessarily representative of what KREIA believes and thinks. We are excited to have you all here. The big thing for us is you guys just need to provide questions. Now is a great opportunity to pick 2 of the brightest brains in our market about investing. So this will go on as long as you guys provide questions. We do have some prepared questions for them to answer to get the ball rolling. But please type your questions over in the group chat. I'll be checking those. I will filter those questions to these guys. You guys just focus on answering the questions to the best of your ability. And of course, everything that we're saying now is fluid and changing, so don't take everything like 100% granted. And then once again, thank you to Eric George for editing all these videos, and Lauren for helping out and sending everything out. They're behind the scenes, and they're just killing it. I almost said VA, but who knows who's going to see this. Okay, first question, or do you guys want to? You guys can do opening statements. Chris did an opening statement last time. If you guys have anything you want to say that you think is especially pertinent or interesting at this moment.
The only thing I've noticed, like with closings, titles are taking a little bit longer to get, and that's because they have shut down the title room the deed room where they go and run. So if you've got a title where they need stuff that's older documents, it's taking a little bit longer to get those titles back. Luckily, most stuff is online now here in Jefferson County and also in Oldham County, but there are some delays with getting titles back. But so far, knock on wood, I haven't had any closings slow down or cancel. I actually have 2 more scheduled for tomorrow and 2 more that are trying to close before the end of the week. So there's still, and new title orders are coming in almost every day. So we're still moving forward. It's just titles are taking a little bit longer to get in.
Do you think any of this stuff that we're doing and applying now will become a new norm for investing or just title work in moving forward? I mean, the curbside service, any of that stuff's going to carry over?
I don't know. A lot of my closings with the investors that I work with, a lot of them are out of state. So a lot of the closings that I do now, I'm emailing documents to them. They're getting signed and notarized and shipping them back to me. So, I mean, I do as many that I don't ever actually get to see the people in person as I do with people coming into the office. So it's just,
This is normal.
Yes. I think the biggest change is going to be a lot of states have adopted where you can use an e-notary. And in those states where that's been approved, I know Ohio is one that actually their closings can fully be done remotely now. They're able to actually record ones that are e-signed and e-notarized so that they don't have to have an original wet signature like we still do here in Kentucky.
How do you feel about that? Do you think we should move towards that, or do you think it's better to do it the way we do it?
I have concerns. I've got some closing attorney friends that I talked to up in Ohio, and they said their biggest concern with it is they've had things come in where it's been an in-person notary and they've caught things wrong. They're really worried about with an e-notary where you literally, they said the process is you will hold your ID up like you would here to the camera, and there's a way for them to take a picture of that ID and then keep it in their file. So it's basically, I'm a little concerned with the increased chance of it being fraud, but I think that's where we're all moving. I know talking to the commissioner that Jefferson County is working towards being able to do e-recordings where you don't have to take the originals down to the deed room to be recorded anymore. And they're still trying to get that passed here.
Sounds pretty lucrative to be able to do e-notaries because you can just sit at home in your boxers and sign me up. I'll have Chipotle money. What about you, Denny? What are your thoughts, comments, concerns about the world?
I think everything's still changing, and I believe it's going to be a month or 2 before we figure out where it's settled. If you take 9/11, that was a U.S. event, and after that event, everything changed. The way we did business changed, security changed, the airports changed. And then you've got 2008, the bubble bust crashes, and after that happened, everything changed again, but it was more in our world of real estate and how we did business and how we look at deals, where we get our money from. And so we're back in that boat again. Everything's going to change based on this event, and we really don't have all the answers today because it's still fluid, it's still happening, and we're not going to know the end result here for probably several months.
Yeah, it's weird out there. It's like the wild, wild west. And do you think there's going to be a lot more like weird cases that come from this, or people mishandling this or whatnot? Or, I mean, like, I feel like there's a real big opportunity for investors to be dragged through the mud again after this.
I think our biggest concern is the misinformation that's getting put out there. Like the Courier Journal article that basically told all tenants that you don't have to pay your rent right now. That's not correct. That's not what was mandated. They are asking landlords to work with their tenants during this time of crisis, but there is no mandate that says you don't have to pay your rent. Now, HUD properties, meaning properties actually owned by the different housing authorities, are not even allowed to file evictions right now. So properties owned by Louisville Metro Housing Authority here in Jefferson County, even if they have a tenant not paying, they've been mandated they can't file an eviction. regular landowners and property managers and non-HUD owned properties, you can still file. There's going to be a delay in your court date, but you can still file. If you choose to wait and try to work it out with them and not file until after the crisis is over, my fear is you're going to have non-payment of rent for March, and you're going to have a June court date and not get them set out till July. And if the mortgage companies don't forgive you paying your mortgages or forgive you paying your interest at least, or something on your payments, you don't have money coming in. You're not going to be able to make your bills, and now it's going to be July before you have possession of your property back. So I think all of the landlords need to be looking at it on a case-by-case basis, tenant-by-tenant basis. And if it's a good tenant that, hey, can maybe pay you a little bit right now to keep things going, great. But if you have one that has been a troublemaker and it has not been paying the rent, do you really want to be June or July before you're able to get the property re-rented to someone? And right now, there may not be a lot of people out looking for apartments, but as you and I were talking, Rob, there's a lot of kids coming home because the colleges are sending them off campus. Mm-hmm. So they've got to go somewhere if they don't want to go home and live with their parents.
Which I think the Airbnbs should jump on that segment right now, because you have furnished places. They usually don't have a ton of furniture anyway, all those kids. So I don't know, might be good to reach out to school and see what they're doing with displaced people.
All right, let's talk about tenants a little bit. We're sending out a letter to all of our tenants, residents, as I call them, whose accounts are current, and we're offering them the opportunity to pay on time. I'm just going to go ahead and read you a rough draft of the letter we're sending out.
Sure.
Coronavirus relief is what we've titled it. So we know that these are challenging times and that many of you may be facing uncertainty. We feel like we are all in this together, and we wanted to put forth something to show you that we care about you and your families. Therefore, we have decided the following. Any tenant who has a zero balance as of March 30th and pays their April rent on or before April 6th automatically receives a discount. Now, this team member is giving a 25% discount. I'm going to give a 50% discount on the rents because I'm in a position that I can do that.
Jenny, would you do that based on like your cash flow? So you can cover your mortgage, but maybe you're just not cash flowing for 1 month or something like that?
Well, each investor is going to be in a unique situation depending on whether you have cash in the bank and you're prepared for that. And I think I'll talk about that a little bit more here in the near future or in a few minutes. But we're going to put this in place for 2 months so that they'll be eligible for an additional discount also in May. And if we've got somebody who does not have a current account, then we're going to use a case by case. And unless they stick their head in the sand, we're going to work with them, because I think the most important thing to remember is people trying to rent units right now, they're kind of up in the air about what to do. And so what kills investors is empty houses, having to pay those extra utility bills. So you want to do everything you can in your power right now to keep your units full. Now, does that mean leaving a bad tenant in there for an extra couple of months? It might, but then at least I'm still not paying the electric, I'm not paying the water, and it's not getting broke into.
Yeah, and are you willing to share that template on the forum on the KREIA page?
I will check with the investor who wrote that. Like I said, that's one of my team members wrote that, and I'll have to talk to her about that. I don't think it'll be a problem.
Oh, I'm sure she's on the call.
Oh, she is. Oh, yeah, she already claimed it.
No, she didn't. I do it together. But if you do, put that in as a Word document so that way people can edit it to make it the financing work on their end.
Cool. The other thing, if you've got tenants that are behind, you're going to want to try to give them some sort of relief or assistance. I know in the past there's been churches, there's been government agencies. If anybody has lost their job, they need to go file for unemployment ASAP.
Are you putting that information in the letter too? Like, hey, if you have lost your job, here's where you can reach out.
We're going to add that in. But what we're being told is they're going to use the unemployment filings and the tax returns for who gets the first relief checks. So filing the unemployment's also going to go to the top of the list of who's getting the checks first.
Yeah, and that's great. So they need to jump on that.
All right. We've already had some confirmations from LG&E. Of course, the water company, they're not going to turn off people's services.
And I believe cable internet too, I believe.
The cable TV, rent-a-centers, they're working with a couple of the residents that we have. Car payments, we've got several clients that have gotten letters from the car payments saying they're going to defer next month's car payment. There's just all kinds of people jumping. Credit cards, I know that credit card payments are being deferred. Student loans, so there's all kinds of ways that you can school your tenants to tell them, hey, these are the things you can work on, and therefore you can still afford to pay a portion of your rent.
Mm-hmm. Denny, on a weird note, if you're obviously you plan for this and you're in a good position. If an investor that we know, maybe someone on this call or someone in KREIA is struggling, can they reach out to you and maybe you can try to take some properties off their hands or anything, or to help them out in some way? Is that something you're maybe interested in doing?
I'm probably getting 4 to 6 calls a day right now from investors who are going, my deal's blowing up. It's not going to close. The banks changed their mind. And for the next 2 weeks, we've decided not to buy anything. We want to see where everything's going to land. I think there's going to be some discounted properties that are going to hit the market. I don't know for what period of time that's going to happen. It could be a short period of time. It could be a longer period of time, but we're in a completely different boat than we were in 2008. There's still no inventory. You've got investors pulling out of the stock market. They're going to want to put their money somewhere. Real estate's always been a safe bet. So KREIA is like a think tank. And if you run into problems, then you need to network with the people in the club, because we're all here in this together and we all need to help each other the best of our ability.
Yeah, and one thing that's interesting to note is, and I've only been an agent for 6 years, but I was told that 2001 and 2008 got rid of a lot of the sharks that were out there, the people that were mismanaging, maybe weren't treating people well. I mean, that's another, who said it? Someone on Instagram or Twitter said, cut the grass and you'll see the snakes. So maybe the grass is getting cut, huh?
I think the industry is going to change again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right now our numbers, our record 730 at KREIA right now. I wonder if you'll see an uptick because of this happening and people realizing they need passive income, or if you're going to see a downtick because some people, are going to lose their shirt because they were over leveraged. I'm really curious.
Historically, the numbers have gone down after 9/11. The numbers went down after 2008. So historically, the numbers have always gone down, but I guess time will tell.
Denny, can we talk about that for a second? You're historic in our group because you've been around for a long time. I mean, in 2001 or was it 2008? What did our numbers get down to? English, Rob.
That's a difficult question to answer, because you're talking about a time frame when KREIA didn't have the website. And when we first were meeting at Masterson's, because I didn't join till about 2006. So this is probably a question better suited for somebody like Chris McCarty or Rue McFarland. But my recollection is we went onto the internet when the club was being managed by a management company. And that's when the board started taking back on the jobs. And during that transition, we lost a lot of records and they all had to be recreated. So somewhere around 2002, 3 or 4, I can't quite, I'm sorry, that's the wrong date. 8, 9, 10. There was a period of time in there, and it was a couple of years before I was president, when we were building a website. That would have been Mike Butler and myself, and I think there was a third party helping with that. And it just had to start from scratch and be recreated. So we started with 0 again.
Yeah. So we got low. We almost died, right?
There was a period of time where it was questionable whether KREIA would survive, but we got back to the basics and rebuilt the club. It was a team effort.
Yeah. And now we have great leadership. I mean, the board's awesome. I think everyone's eager to help, and I think that's what makes it so special. The real world's not like that, right? Where everyone's just so well read and learning, listen to podcasts, and so eager to help. I don't know. There's not a lot of, we all have a few trade secrets, but I feel like everyone's pretty liberal with telling each other. We can start hitting on some of these questions. I'm pulling it up. First one, Michelle, what's the update on the courts? Opened or closed? Are you still filing evictions? Let's start with that. We kind of hit on it a little bit.
The courts in Jefferson County are still open. All courts across Kentucky, you can e-file. Jefferson County, the attorneys can still go down in person. So we've been down there every day this week filing evictions. We've also filed a couple collection cases. So maybe I'm the evil person, but
it's your job.
You know, business just keeps moving forward. In Indiana, the courts are shut down. You cannot file evictions or foreclosures in Indiana right now. That was a mandate of the governor. He did not put an end to that. And talking to the clerks in both Floyd and Clark counties, they are tentatively scheduled to reopen April 13th, which is when we're scheduled to open here in Kentucky. I personally feel there's going to be a second extension. I think they're probably going to push courts to being closed through the end of April with stuff reopening in May, just from stuff I'm hearing from different people. But we're just going to have to wait and see. We're only in the second week of the shutdown, so I figure we're not going to hear anything till end of next week, beginning of the following week. But here in Jefferson County, we're filing the evictions, which is what the courts have advised us to keep doing. Because that way your court dates are going to be the first dates when the court reopens. If you wait to file until the courts actually reopen, there's potentially your court dates are going to be end of May, beginning of June. And so that's why they're saying, you know, even if they shut it down to where we can't go in person, they're telling us we can still e-file. So that'll keep going forward until we're told otherwise.
Oh, so we're not in bad shape. Business is moving.
Yes.
And foreclosures, they've been delayed, correct? Like
the next two sales have been canceled completely. They will be rescheduled once the courts reopen and they're able to get new sale dates. And I've talked to Carol at the commissioner's office, the master commissioner, and she said if they reopen courts April 13th, then they won't have any other cancellations of sales. But if they do continue through the end of April, then there'll be another sale canceled. And then she said, we'll get back on track in May. But with those properties for the sales that were canceled, they can't just put them on the next available date. They actually have to go back through getting revised orders and reposting with new sale dates and advertising, all that stuff. So the ones that were supposed to take place on these next two sales will be sometime probably, she said, like June or July.
So are we going to have this like mammoth sale where we have 3 months of inventory just all in one sale? That'd be nuts.
Yeah, she's not going to do that. The most she said they're allowed to have at a sale is 200 properties. But anyone who's been to the sales this year knows they're way down in numbers for available properties. So I think even if they add 2 sales together, I still don't think we're going to be anywhere near we were back when the sales consistently had the 200 properties at a sale.
We should maybe have a KREIA tailgate for that first one, right? Wouldn't that be fun? I'm sure I can get someone to sponsor that. Have you seen any closings delayed or anybody just trying to back out on your end?
I have not on my end. I have had a couple clients who do flips who have said that they've had some issues when it's gone to be sold to the owner occupant. One told me it's because the buyer lost her job. And so, of course, the bank is not willing to close because she's lost her job. And he's had a second one where the buyer's just concerned to be moving right now. So she's asked him for a 2-week extension, which he's granted. And he's hoping that within the next couple weeks, they're going to be able to get it closed and allay her fears and everything. But we're just waiting. But he's the only one I've heard. With the investor deals, yeah. The lenders I work with are still full steam ahead. The investors who are buying are still moving forward. I still have title orders coming in pretty much every day. I've got 2 closings scheduled for tomorrow and another 2 they're trying to schedule before the end of the week. So things are still moving. As I said earlier, there's a little delay occasionally in getting the titles back, but that seems to be the only hiccup so far for the investors that I'm working with.
Has anyone heard of any of the banks or the lenders that are not taking applications for loans anymore because they believe the rates are too low?
I'm hearing that the out-of-state people they're like on my commercial deals, they're having a harder time qualifying. Like they're just really, if you don't have any kind of boots or attachment to Louisville, they're a little nervous about. And of course now all my California people are wanting to buy here, of course. So it's affecting my life a little bit, but we'll work it out. They'll just go around the circuit until they find someone that hits, or they'll just put a little bit more money down. Are you hearing of any banks saying no yet?
I've heard that there are some that are not like on the secondary market that are not wanting to do the lower interest rates that are being offered. So, but I've spoken to the different mortgage companies that I work with and banks that I work with and credit unions, and they said they're still taking applications and moving forward, and they're quoting what the interest rates currently are. So, and I've heard everything from 2.75 to 3.5. So it just really depends. Yeah. But I mean, it just really depends on who you talk to, because the different banks are giving me different figures, which I think are funny because, the Federal Reserve reduced the interest rate pretty much to zero. And I know they're not going to reduce our interest rates to zero because they have to make money. They're paying nothing for the money, but they're going to want something in exchange. But I just think it's funny that varying banks are from, as I said, the 2.5 to 3.5. And
yeah. Well,
okay.
My buddy was telling me that they had so many people trying to refinance. They raised their rates because they couldn't handle the load. Like they just couldn't process that many. So they raised the rates to say, well, we'll process it, but we're going to make more money on it because they just couldn't handle it. And it makes sense. I mean.
All right. Can I touch on one more thing with tenants that we're doing?
Yeah, that's what you're here for, big guy.
All right. So we've been taking Venmo payments for about 6 months.
Really?
That seems to be working really well for some of the tenants. Keeps them from using the snail mail. Also, credit cards. We've got a method to take credit cards. One of my team members right now is testing a new product that's out there. I think there's some other investors that might be using it, and it's PNC, and it's Cash Flow Insight. And they actually create it's like a debit card, and they give the tenants, and you slide that tenant can take their rent payment to any PNC location or ATM, and they can make their rent deposit. It seems to be working really well, but we're still testing that.
Are you building in the interest that you're paying on, like that you have to pay on Venmo to your tenants? Are you making them pay that?
We're not carrying over the cost at this point in time. We're trying to figure out the different platforms and figure out which one works the best. The Cash Flow Insight is a flat fee. It's fairly cheap. And on Venmo, when you use Venmo, there are no fees to us. All the fees, they're on the residents. So it's free if you set it up and correctly. And make sure you click the private button, because if you don't, everybody can see it. Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, are you having are you able to track for your taxes pretty well with the Venmo payments as well, though, for your CPA?
I mean, we've got a bookkeeper in the office, so basically we track every payment coming in. We're not having any problems telling who's paying what. There is a way to decipher that.
Okay, good. Because I mean, Venmo is a tool that seems like everybody has, which is awesome.
Well, the reason we're testing new platforms is we've heard several rumors that Venmo is on its way out, and we wanted to be prepared just in case that happens.
They are struggling financially, which is kind of crazy because everyone I know has it. That's like the go-to. Hey, I'm gambling $20. Here's lunch, whatever.
This event may change that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it's wild. Sorry, I'm getting off script, even though we don't really have a script. Do you guys see the governor and government maybe changing some of their outlooks on gambling and marijuana and whatnot in lieu of this huge deficit we're about to have in the state from all this fun stuff?
I'm not smart enough to answer that question.
I honestly don't know. I know they've been trying for a long time to get that passed here in Kentucky, so we're just going to have to wait and see what they come up with.
Well, I went, I don't know if you guys saw, maybe you did, but I went to Jacksonville with a bunch of the wholesalers, and we were talking about Bernie's 50% tax on flipping, which we think is terrible. But we were actually all okay with that 2% vacancy tax on vacant homes, because I think that would help move some properties. I don't know. What do you guys think about a 2% vacancy tax?
I think it's the government trying to get into our pockets again, personally.
You don't think it'll help churn the waters and help move some more product?
I think it depends. If you inherit the property because someone passed away and so you don't know what you want to do with it and you want to hold it for a while to figure it out, maybe you've got a grandchild that's going to need it or something, and now you're going to have to pay a tax on it. I'm really not comfortable with that.
Well, maybe they make it like a 6-month window or something like that. Like, all right, you can only, but how are you going to track vacancy for 6 months, right? But I don't know. I just like the idea because, I mean, you look at all this, we have a shortage on lower income properties, but we have all these properties sitting vacant in the West End. I don't know. We just need to be able to get access to those vacant West End properties with all those liens on it. We just need to get access to those. But, okay, Denny, I'm on your questions now. Clicked on the wrong email. Sorry. Okay, Denny. Let's get back to how you're handling your tenants. What new things are you implementing aside from what you talked about with the letter?
All right, so we kind of went over what we're doing with the tenants, but we've kind of implemented a new business plan for small business under 10 employees. I feel like that probably fits a lot of the people on the call. What we're doing is last week we did a curbside move-in. So we don't do move-ins at our office. We actually are at the homes, but we did this one. You know, we let the new resident go in the house, watch our video, and we actually stayed outside, worked on the paperwork, did what we needed to do, and then we kind of swapped positions. And then when it was time to sign the lease, I masked up and gloved up and went through the lease with them because I still enjoy doing that. That's part of the business. I like to be involved. You know, they think I'm the dumb property manager, and I enjoy talking to the tenants. With regards to the business plan, communications is key. We put in a plan to communicate with our renters, as y'all saw with the letter, but we're also talking to our employees. We're giving them what our expectations are, and we're also finding out if they need any help. And the third part of that is, we'll get to it, but lenders and borrowers. So, you know, you've got to start thinking ahead that if you're going to have a hiccup in your cash flow, that's going to affect you, the ability to pay your loans down the road here in a month or 2 or 3. Over the next 2 to 4 weeks, we're just kind of looking to see what's available. Like I said, we're kind of taking a stutter step here to see what the new normal looks like. There's probably going to be some layoffs. And when will they be likely? You know, if we cut our hours, what hours are we going to cut? How are the employees going to work? Are they going to work from home? Is it realistic for some of the employees to do that, or is it not realistic? You got to consider the employee's personality. You got to consider their job description. And what do my employees need help with during this time? So you're going to have some of your employees who are going to need some help, and you got to determine whether they're important enough to your business to help them. We're establishing a meeting schedule once, twice a week of a time when we're touching base with our team members. And that way we can check up with everybody, make sure everybody's on task and we're accomplishing our goals. If there's not, we're making adjustments. I've pre-planned my schedule for the next 2 to 4 weeks. That way we're guessing what we're going to be doing, but also we can make adjustments as we go forward. Then the next section would be business operations. What do we need to do? And what do we need to stop doing today? There's still some rumors that if we do get more restrictive about moving around in our city. So over the last 48 hours, we've actually loaded up 3 or 4 of our projects and our warehouse with materials enough that we know we can keep everybody working if we can work for the next month and a half. In case they close Home Depot and Lowe's, we want to be able to have materials on our sites. That's one of the things we've done. If you figure out what's spinning your wheels, you need to stop doing it and make changes. Let's see, financial impact. And the next section is financial impact research. How much cash do you have on hand? How long will it last? And can you borrow money or can you get a loan today? If you forecast you're going to be out of money in 3 months, you need to be talking to somebody about getting a loan today so that you're going to be able to survive this hiccup. The last is marketing strategy. The letter kind of covered that a little bit, but you need to include coronavirus in it. I think the best one I've seen so far is the Branch Brothers. They did their little coronavirus video. They've implemented that into their business model and plan. That's a great way to approach it. Tell everybody what's going on and communicate. Everybody's struggling with this a little bit. Human interaction is really important to a lot of individuals. The only individuals right now who are loving this are the introverts. They're liking it. They're having fun with it, but everybody else is struggling with it. I've got a whole list of stuff for my 17-year-old son to do because it's driving him nuts. He cannot sit still. That's kind of what we're doing with the business, and just everybody needs to remember, like I said, KREIA is a resource. And if you're having a problem, you need to ask somebody in the club, because we can all help each other through the time and we can try to solve the problems. Michelle's a great resource. Chris McCarty, I'm going to miss somebody, but there's just Eric George, Hampton, Rob, and we just need to help each other through this time, try to solve the problems as they come up.
Yeah, I agree. Everyone's, I don't know. We're all, I'm not, I speak for myself at least. I'm bored, so I'm taking a lot of conference calls, but I'm sure we're all happy to take 5 minutes to walk around the house and have a conference call just to get our exercise in, right? Gosh, it's good to connect. Guys, I have some of these questions queued up. First thing I want to know is, Dennis, you say the word hours really weird. I wrote it down because I want you to say it again.
Hours?
No, okay. Wait. Oh, we have a lot of community hours. I don't know how you said it, but I just want you to know.
Hours? Yeah, it's country slang.
Well, you're really isolated out there. And what, you're in Shelbyville?
Yeah, I'm in Shelby County.
Yeah. All right, guys. The YouTube links will be up today or tomorrow. Most likely someone asked that question. Michelle,
Yes.
have you heard anything about the newspaper or TV stations going to correct their statement, false no rent due mandate?
No, they're not going to mandate. They're not going to correct that, because if you listen to the different reports from all different kinds of media, not just our Courier Journal, they're all out there saying that you don't have to pay your rent. And I'm like, that's not, yes, it's been mandated in certain states, like New York City has put it in place. Most of California has put it in place, but that's a state by state thing. And the governor here in Kentucky does not have the authority to really order that. The only thing that they can really do is get the Supreme Court to keep the courts shut so that we can't file evictions. They don't really have the authority to say, oh, rent free for everybody, because by our Constitution here, they're taking away your rights. So I don't see it being mandated here in Kentucky. I see them doing what they've done, which is make it so that we can't go to court on evictions right now. And I think that's the way they're trying to get everyone to basically, hey, work with your tenants. But I don't see our media who's out there wanting to put out misinformation correcting that.
I do have a line dropped with the Courier Journal to try to bring someone on to talk about the coronavirus and what they think. I just thought it'd be interesting to get an opinion that is not affiliated with the investor world, but we'll see. I'm still working on it. They're supposed to have ankle surgery, so who knows? Brett Grigsby, who is killing it. He's one of my clients, and he's blowing up. Literally, there'll be at 50 units in the first 12 months. He posted something. He works for Denton Floyd, which came from LDG, the chain and the KREIA. But he said you can have residents call 211 or text 898-211 is the number for you to text your zip code for relief. It will ask you some questions and send you any group that is offering help or the relief you need. And this is put on by the United Way. Once again, you can call 211 or text 89211, and you text your zip code to do that. Brock Halstead has a question for Dennis. Dennis, how long are you offering the discount to your residents? And do you think you will get resistance after that time? And how do you think you'll handle that?
Well, the letter's very specific about if you're current, and it's very specific that it's for April and May only.
Yeah, because you're human and you're helping out.
The other thing we're thinking and looking at is this may be an opportunity for some of our leases that are getting close to expiring. We'll go ahead and do lease extensions. Again, it's a case by case. And right now I've only got one resident who's got her head stuck in the sand. And that actually happened before the coronavirus, and Michelle filed the eviction before that. But lo and behold, it got caught up in the mess. So it's probably going to be, May or June before we get her out.
Yes. And Frank Miller invited me to this webinar, I think it was 2 nights ago. And one thing he said is right now what he's doing is he's offering extensions on all of his leases without a rent increase, but he's making them sign a 2-3-year extension. So it might be a good way to lock in your tenants when we're going into all this uncertainty. You're going to be losing that 2 or 3% rent increase that you could do each year, but you're building in a lot of safety and cushion. So especially if you own stuff free and clear, I mean, you're already cash flowing. Jeannie, KREIA's YouTube channel is youtube.com/REIAKY. So /REIAKY, and that's where all the previous videos will be. We're still getting Monday's call up, and we'll get today's up in the next today or tomorrow. Jim Gardner had some insight, Denny. He said we started the website back in the early 90s. We had a demonstration at Masterson's, and his son wrote the first one, and it was about 6 pages. He also stated that Mr. Landlord's site, he also started the Mr. Landlord site that Joe Hampton revised after that. Frank Miller, former president of KREIA, host, big investor guy, flipper guy, and he hosts the Believe Investment class, said, we currently had a flip under contract, and after 2 weeks, the buyer and buyer's agent requested we cancel the contract due to uncertainty due to COVID-19. So they had to cancel. So, I mean, Frank's dealing with it on his end. Now, once again, we mentioned last call, Frank, kills it, had that Burr deal where he made like $112K a couple weeks ago. He's not renovating his own personal basement because he wants to see what is going to happen in the market. I mean, take advantage of the market or build in safety for him and his family. So we should all be doing the same thing. Just note that. All right, I'm going back through the questions. Sue thinks that any tax the government passes is a slippery slope for more. I agree with that. Less government, usually a good thing, but we're not getting into politics. My apologies. Let's see.
I have a question.
Yeah, sure, Danny.
Michelle, is there any update on the new protected classes? They're not going to slip this through while all this is going on, are they?
They can't. Louisville Metro government's not meeting.
Okay.
So everything's on hold until they come back because they're not, just like with everyone else, they're doing their social distancing. So it's on hold right now.
Awesome.
Okay. SBA is offering disaster relief loans. But how would that help investors, flippers, rental properties with non-HUD loans? I don't think it would.
No, it won't. HUD has put a bunch of stuff into effect, but that's only affecting people with HUD loans. And so now there is Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, who is part of HUD for multifamily, which is not probably most of KREIA. Because it's more for like the big apartment complexes, but anything that's considered multifamily, they are offering for you to contact them. The deal is, though, if they give you any assistance and relief, you have to agree that while your mortgage is in abatement, basically, where you're not making your payments, that you will not file any evictions or move forward with any evictions against any of your tenants for any reason. So it's not even just non-payment of rent. You have to stop all evictions if you're getting the help. So, but that's something that if anyone needs help with that for multifamily, if you want to shoot me an email, I've got a link that was sent out by the National Apartment Association to all of the multifamily owners to help them.
Michelle, could you give them your email address so they can reach out to you for more questions?
Yes. It's Michelle, Michelle, at rawnlawfirm.com.
All right. And
Can I touch on the investor side of the lenders?
What'd you say? Sorry.
Can I touch on the investor side of the lenders?
Yeah, touch on it, big guy.
I don't know if anybody else has done this yet or had conversations. So either myself or another investor, we've talked to Cub Bank, and they're moving towards and the paperwork's not ready yet, but here's what they've said they're going to do. For the investors, they're looking at doing 6-month interest-only payments. Republic Bank has said that they're going to do 3 months deferred payments and put those payments on the back of the loan. First National Bank of Carrollton, Doug Miles, they're going to look at each investor case by case. CFK would be Stan Harmon, and they're also going to look at each investor case by case. And so far, that's the 4 banks that I know have been talked to by either myself or other investors. So they're willing to work with us. You just need to stay in front of it and act early. Don't wait until it's too late.
Oh yeah, concur for sure. Always good to get ahead. I mean, and that's something I mentioned on the call is like talk to your lenders now, get in line, so that way you're not reactionary, whereas you can be more progressive. Or Stacy Duvall is posting some companies in the chat of companies that are hiring right now. So if your tenants need jobs, it's good opportunities. Karen Lane's been really good about that too. I know USPS, Amazon, Costco, Kroger, they're all hiring a ton of people right now. And then people are also looking for odd jobs on TaskRabbit.com, and that's a great resource. Benthal Brothers, Nikki Judd said that regarding materials, they're still offering curbside service and delivery with Benthal. I agree, Joanna. Introverts stuck inside with extroverts are going crazy. Frank Miller asks, what advice would you give the new investors that have not experienced something like this? Would you hoard cash, buy rentals, buy flips, or wait for the opportunity?
I think that's your question, Dennis.
Yeah, I know it. It just depends on the deal. It needs to make sense at the end of the day. You've got to run your ROI. So if you buy something, what's your exit strategy? Can you, and I never buy anything we're not willing to keep. So if we buy it, we're willing to keep it. So everything we got in the pipeline right now, we'll turn it into a rental if we have to, if that's what the new normal looks like here in a month. But your ROI, you want to make sure you've got good ROI on whatever you buy. And I wouldn't knee jerk to buy the first deal out there right now. I'd wait another week or two and see, because I still believe there's going to be some discounted properties, if not for a long period of time, at least for a short period of time.
I agree. Let's see. Well, in my personal opinion, if I think that 3-month, deferment or whatever is going to probably get extended, if I had to guess. But if it doesn't get extended, I think we start seeing the time to buy is like 4 or 5 months out, property wise. But I don't know. I wrote like 4 or 5 offers out 4 weeks ago, and they're coming back to us and coming to our original price. So it might not be terrible to write out, if you have the means, write out offers, lowball offers, give them like a 3-month response time so they can just sit there and think about it. But just remember, if the market goes down even more, they can lock you in just like you can interest rates or stock. So you got to be careful and prudent with it. I mean, you still should have your inspection contingency and your financing.
Well, Rob, I wouldn't give them a 3-month response time, because when they come back to you, normally what we tend to do is we go, well, we'll check with our team members and we'll see if that offer is still available. You're leaving a wide open door. We'd rather go back to them and say, well, now the price is not 100 today. Now it's 90.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. I think that if you let it sit, 11 o'clock, they'll be like, you know what? Screw it. Let's just do it. Or they're out of toilet paper and be like, this is shitty. We're moving forward.
And there's one other thing with tenants that I heard, and I want to call attention to it, and that's that some investors are talking about letting their tenants do work for them. I will not do that. I know that some people are going to disagree with me, and that's okay. But once you, and I've never had this not go wrong, but once you let a tenant start trading work for rent, that's an expectation going forward. And then they start doing things you don't ask them to do and sending you receipts that you didn't ask to pay for. And they start, it's a bad habit to get into if you can avoid it. Now,
I agree with Dennis. That's a slippery slope you don't want to go down, because we have that come up in eviction court. Even now, before the crisis started, a handful of times every month, and we end up being told by the judge, go out in the hall and negotiate a settlement. She's like, the judges are like, you're not going to like what we come up with, so go out in the hall and figure it out amongst yourselves. And so then we're out in the hall trying to negotiate something that's going to work between both parties, because they're saying, hey, you let me do it. And the landlord's like, well, I let you do it on this situation, but not this situation. And the judge is like, well, where's your paperwork saying it was limited to just this one time? And so unless you're dotting your I's and crossing your T's and you have everything very well documented and both parties sign off on it and know exactly what the parameters are, you do not want to do that.
Yeah, that is a good thing to bring up because the barter system is alive and well. Ed Gibson here, he's thinking that this will be more like a big snowstorm. In a more positive way, the Dow is up 972 right now. I don't really look at the market that often.
Ed would know that.
Yeah, he would. He called me this morning, and my phone literally doesn't ring before 9 o'clock unless you call 3 times. So, sorry, Ed, I was not ringing. Okay, Chiquita Lindsay is saying healthcare workers will have stacks of cash after this because they will have no time or place to spend it. Flippers will sell a lot of homes then. Yeah, I mean, apparently the hospitals, I know they're since they got rid of I read this article yesterday, since they got rid of all the elective surgeries and everything, they're actually down, they're going to be down 20% on profits this year. So they're going to have to make that up somewhere, which is crazy. Yeah, it's just crazy. Yes. River City's doing case by case as well. Frank Miller's question for Michelle. After the holdoffs are lifted, how long, in your opinion, will the backlog of evictions and potential sit-outs be? What was the normal turnaround anyway?
Normal turnaround for court dates in Jefferson County were 3 to 4 weeks. I think the backlog, if you wait to file until after the courts reopen, I think you're going to be lucky to get a court date 4 weeks out. I've spoken to the sheriff's office on sit-outs, and when they're allowed to go back to doing them, they are beefing up their staff. I don't know if you all understand that right now, or before the virus, they had 2 employees. So they had 2 sheriffs, and they would rotate every other hour going to a sit-out. So you were only doing 1 an hour. And that would give the sheriff 2 hours to be at your sit-out and also give them time to drive to their next sit-out. From what the sheriff's office has told us, they're going to beef it up to where they can do 4 an hour to try to get the backlog taken care of in the first 30 to 45 days is what the sheriff's plan is. So the ones that they're going to schedule first are the ones where sit-outs were already filed and scheduled, and then they called and canceled your sit-out with you. Now, the only thing you need to be worried about is we had that happen to us to about 5 of our clients. We had to refile those sit-outs because they're only good for 30 days. So if they're not executed within that 30 days, which means that they're not finalized, they have to be refiled before that 30-day time period expires. So we've gone ahead and refiled because they're holding them now at district court, and the judge will not sign it till they come back on the bench. So we've got them filed within that window, and the new 30 days won't start running till the judge signs them. So you don't want to miss your window if you've got evictions, that you've got judgments, because the judgments are only good for 30 days for you to file your sit-out. So you want to make sure you get them filed before that 30-day window passes. Otherwise, you're going to have to start over with a whole new eviction filing.
Good knowledge. Guys, I think we are through I think we're through all the questions we have. This has been the most questions asked of any conference call, so good on YouTube for providing great content. We are, once again, these are all our own opinions. We should have a call on Friday. I think it's going to be a little different than this one. I think we're going to talk about infinite banking and whole life insurance. Because Luke Neubauer is fascinated by it. So I've got Nick Costco coming on. Luke's a little shy about it. I'm going to make him come on. But it should be interesting. And then we'll, line up calls. I think Airbnb is going to be a topic because they're getting hit hard. And then I'd like to bring on some wholesalers and see how they're taking advantage of the market and what they think is going to be happening. And then we'll try to keep these going until, we can get out of the house. Once again, look after your neighbors, go on walks, talk to people, Zoom calls. Everybody on the KREIA board is happy to talk. And if you need anything, just let us know. Hampton, the Pones, everyone, Chris McCarty, Michelle, Denny, Todd, myself, Katie Krotzer, Stacy Duvall. If you need anything, reach out to one of those people. And thank you guys for coming, and we'll see you on Friday.
All right. Thank you.
Guys, see ya.
Thank you, everyone.